And for 400 years, they've been violently killing us. And I'm tired of having to try to explain to Caucasian people why I'm angry. I'm tired of caring about how they feel about my reaction. I'm tired of begging them to not kill me. I'm at the point now where I don't care anymore about that. You know why? I'm trusting in the Father. I believe He's going to deliver us. Even if I die, I believe He's going to raise me up. I believe I'm going to be standing on the walls of New Jerusalem watching the judgment fall on those who have oppressed us. And it makes me feel really hopeful, really good. So I don't care anymore about what they think. I'm not scared of them anymore. If a cop shoots me, he just shoots me. I'm not going to beg him. I'm not going to get on my knees and raise my hands and beg him for my life. I'm not going to do it. They would just kill me. Okay? They would. And if they don't kill me, it's because Yah has something for me to do. That's the way I feel about it. He has something for me further to do on this planet. But at this point, I don't care what they think. I'm not trying to be violent, although that's their first thought. Isn't it amazing? The oppressor, the most violent person in the history of the planet, Gog and Magog, is very concerned that we should be violent. You know why? Because if the roles were reversed, they would be violent. If the roles were reversed, they would be violent. But let me tell you something, brothers and sisters, and let me talk to all the Caucasians that are worried about violence. You don't have to worry about violence from people like me. Not right now. You're going to have serious violence when our Messiah comes. We already read in Isaiah chapter 25 where it says, "Lo, this is our God. We have waited for him. He will save us." In other words, our big brother is here and y'all in trouble. That's when you're going to have a problem. That's why in Revelation chapter 6, it shows them running to the rocks and the mountains and asking the rocks and the mountains to fall on them and hide them because they know the jig is up and they're going to have a problem. And every one of us that you kill right now, it's just marked against you in the book. And you're going to have to pay the piper. It's just marked against you. It's not going to stop us. They've tried. They've infiltrated us. They've put syphilis on us. They've put gonorrhea on us. These are laboratory designed drugs to destroy and make us impotent. But it hasn't worked. They've thrown crack in our. They've created crack and threw it in our neighborhoods along with heroin. They put us into wars and maimed our men, promising when we get back we can earn our citizenship that we were born into, that we can be treated as Americans. And that has not changed, but it has not diminished us. They've mass incarcerated us, and it has not diminished us. They put Ebola and H1N1 and now COVID-19 to try to diminish us, but it has not diminished us. We're still here. Why? Because we've been ordained by the Father as his chosen people. And Pharaoh was also scared when he tried to kill all the males, and it was just increasing. See, I like to point out at the time of Malcolm X's death in 1965, there were 22 million so-called Negroes in the United States, 22 million. And since then, since 1965, we've had the heroin epidemic. They created public housing and flooded the public housing with heroin, and then later cocaine, and then later crack to try to destroy us. They cut off city services so that the garbage would pile up in our places. They allow rats and roaches and vermin to develop in the places. They've discouraged us with terrible substandard education. They put us in prison for profit. That's just since 1965. They stopped us from voting. They placed before us fake messiahs like Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson. And still we rise. They've done the 3-strike law and the get tough on crime bill and the drug czar. And still we rise. Can you imagine if you're one of the architects of this system, especially since 65, let's say, because that 65, that's more than 50 years ago. So a lot of the original ones are dead and their children are here now doing the same thing, right? Carrying on the same business, right? Can you imagine how discouraging that must be? Because now we're going from 22 million to 46 million. And I think they're undercounting it because they don't want us to know really how many of us there are. And that's all good because the Most High said we shouldn't be numbered anyway. The only numbers he has is the men prepared for war. And we know that number is 144,000. No, you ain't got to worry about us. You can't stop us because in spite of all you've done, we still rise. We're still here. And I saw also some videos, which I made note of, that some sister did that shows and proves their long-term plan is genocide on a mass level. Yeah. Why is it? Well, multiple reasons. Number one reason is that Gog and Magog have been in charge for 2,000 years. They're not going to just give up without a fight. Their father, the devil's not going to give up without a fight. Number two, they're threatened by us because their birth rates are diminishing greatly. As a matter of fact, there are many already European countries and countries dominated by Europeans like the United States where the birth rate is already below replacement level, which means they're going to go extinct, which means they're going to be in a minority after a certain time. And so they're going into Africa to try to kill them. See, so because the African birth rates range anywhere from like 4 per woman to like 7 or 8 in some nations. But what they try to do in those nations like Niger, let's say, or Mali, is they try to cut the lifespan to like 50 something. So while they're having a lot of babies, they put famine and economic distress, and they put puppet governments in to try to crush their own people so that their lifespans cut. But it's not stopping them. Still, they rise. It's more than 1 billion people on the continent of Africa. More than 1 billion. Still, they rise. That alone shows us that the long-term trend is against the oppressor. You would think that if they really believed in the Creator and they really understood that what comes around goes around, they really understood and believed that, they would be on their knees begging the Creator right now for forgiveness. They would be on their knees asking for forgiveness for them and their father's sins. They would be apologizing to us, and they would be profusely trying to make things right. You would think that would be logically, that makes sense to us, right? But they're not doing that. They're doubling down, just like their president. Yeah, their president, Trump. So they caught him on video talking about grabbing women by the private parts. He has already, his wife is a former soft porn star. That's not his first or his second wife. Maybe it's his third, and not including all the mistresses, including the porn stars he has slept with. And what does he do? He doubles down. He doesn't back up and say, I'm sorry. He doubles down. Had the nerve to bring up Mr. Floyd, saying Mr. Floyd's looking down from heaven and happy for, he doubles down. And that's a symptom of the whole Caucasian race, with some exceptions. The exceptions being those that come to this truth. That's the only exceptions. The ones that come to this truth and recognize who the true people of Yah are and recognize who the true Messiah, they are blessed. Why are they blessed? Because in the midst of the doubling down of their cousins, they look into the truth and they're coming straight to the truth. That's why I believe the Bible says, of course, there's going to be kings and queens among them that's going to be ruling on this earth too. Because during the darkest time, they stood for the truth. Why do you think Abraham is like, they had Noah, but he says, he told Abraham, I'll bless your seed forever. Why? Because Ur of the Chaldees and the whole earth at that time was under Nimrod's type of situation. And Abraham, called by the Father, followed the God of his father's Noah and Eber and Arphaxad. He alone did that. That's why the Most High blessed him. He said, I called him alone and increased him. The Most High Yah loves people, no matter what color they are, that stand firm for truth against everything that's against them. And so the Caucasian people here, which is in the small minority that stand for the truth, y'all are blessed. Y'all not gonna get any reward of your cousins and in this earth. But most of y'all already know that, because most of the people that are Caucasian that come to this truth are poor anyway. It's not like they got anything. It's the ones that have a little bit of something that think this system, which was built for them, is benefiting them, is going to continue forever. Those are the ones that are going to have a problem. But the ones that have been eaten up in this system, the foster care ones, the ones that lived in trailer parks, the ones that grew up in ghettos with us, they understand. But they're few and far between. Because even among them, there's a lot of them that don't come to this truth. But for the majority of these people, better enjoy what you got now while you got it. Better enjoy it. The time is very short. You ain't got more than like 10 or 12 years left of your dominance, and it's over. Messiah is going to return in that time. I'm telling y'all, and it's over. 10 or 12 years. That's all you got. You've been on this continent in Americas for more than 400. You've been dominating in Australia, South Africa, all over the African continent. Peoples of color going into India for thousands of years. But you got about 12 left. That's all. And that's why this awakening is gaining steam. That's why it's gaining steam. Let's take a look at Joshua chapter 7. Joshua chapter 7. Because this is a type of our situation. Okay? Joshua chapter 7. I'm going to begin Joshua chapter 7. I'm going to begin at verse 1. Joshua chapter 7. I'm going to begin at verse 1. And I'm going to go from verse 1 down to verse 12. Actually, from verse 1 to verse 13. But the children of Israel committed a trespass in the accursed thing. For Achan, the son of Carmi, the son of Zabdi, the son of Zerah of the tribe of Judah, took the accursed thing. And the anger of Yahweh was kindled against the children of Israel. And Joshua sent men from Jericho to Ai, which is beside Beth Awan, on the east side of Beth-al, and spake unto them, saying, Go up and view the country. And the men went up and viewed Ai. And they returned to Joshua and said unto him, Let not all the people go up, but let about 2,000 or 3,000 men go up and smite Ai. And make not all the people labor thither, for they are but few. So there went up thither of the people about 3,000 men, and they fled before the men of Ai. And the men of Ai smote of them about 36 men, and they chased them from before the gate even unto Shebarim, and smote them in the going down, wherefore the hearts of the people melted and became as water. And Joshua rent his clothes and fell to the earth upon his face before the ark of Yahweh unto the eventide. He and the elders of Israel, something's in my eye. He and the elders of Israel, and put dust upon their heads. And Joshua said, Alas, O Most High Yahweh, wherefore hast thou at all brought this people over Jordan to deliver us into the hands of the Amorites, to destroy us? Would to Yah we had been content and dwelt on the other side of Jordan. O Yahweh, what shall I say when Israel turneth their back before their enemies? For the Canaanites and all the inhabitants of the land shall hear of it, and shall environ us about. Excuse me. Something. I'm not weeping or crying. Something is in my eye. I'm sorry. And shall environ us about, and cut off our name from the earth. What wilt thou do unto thy great name? And Yahweh said unto Joshua, Get thee up. Wherefore liest thou thus upon thy face? Israel have sinned, and they have also transgressed my covenant, which I commanded them. For they have even taken the accursed of the accursed thing, and also stolen and dissembled also. And they have put it even among their own stuff. Wherefore, the children of Israel could not stand before their enemies, but turned their backs before their enemies, because they were accursed. Neither will I be with you any more, except ye destroy the accursed from among you. Up, sanctify the people, and say, sanctify yourselves against tomorrow. For thus saith Yahweh Most High of Israel, there is an accursed thing in the midst of thee, O Israel. Thou canst not stand before thy enemies until ye take away the accursed thing from among you. So this was going on now. Israel was used to just, at this point, coming into the promised land, the Most High was just destroying all their enemies. None of them were getting killed. They were destroying all their enemies and taking the land. And they were so confident now because they were getting so many victories that Joshua sent spies up to Ai. It was the next in line. And they said, no, just take 2 or 3 people, 3,000 people. We don't need a full army of people. We don't need tens of thousands here. We could just take this one. This is a small place, right? So they put 3,000. And then they ended up running, and they ended up having 36 people die, which was a big deal because none of them was dying in these situations. They were conquering and to conquer. And so 36 of them died, and Joshua was on his face before the Most High. Wasn't nothing wrong with that. But the Most High scolded him and said, get up. What you doing praying to me? Obviously, you have sinned against me. And I'm not going to be with you as long as you have that sin among you. Because what happened? Achan saw some gold, because the command from the Most High was, don't touch any of their stuff. Burn everything. Don't take any of their stuff. It's all cursed, he said. Don't touch their stuff. That's what he said. And Achan saw a gold wedge, and he saw some nice clothes, and he did not follow the command of Yah, but he snatched this stuff quietly and hid it in his own tent. But the command was, don't touch any of their stuff, burn all of it because it's cursed. See, brothers and sisters, we have to understand what the Creator is not about the money. He don't care about the money. We have learned from our heathen counterparts to care about dollar bills. Y'all don't care about money. You don't worry about that. Why? Because he owns the earth and the assets of it. He's not worried about money. And he spoke it all into existence. What do you worry about money for? And with us, when he tells us something is cursed, brothers and sisters, leave it alone. It's a thing. It's a thing. And so he told Joshua, I'm not going to be with you. You're not going to be able to stand before your enemies unless you remove the accursed thing. Now, how does that relate to us? Brothers and sisters, we can't stand before our enemies. Well, we couldn't before. The Bible says it. You're not going to be able to stand before your enemies. Why? Because we worshiped other gods. Because we were accursed. We worshiped other gods and we were accursed. Therefore, we could not stand before our enemies. We could not stand before them. They had power over us. But the Bible says, once we awaken and we go back to our God, we won't be scared of our enemies anymore. And that's what I'm starting to feel now. Because the awakening is causing us to not worship other gods. The awakening is causing us to come back to the God of our fathers, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in obedience. I mean, we're not all on the same page. I mean, we got some brothers thinking you got to wear this certain, garb, that they created, that they say the brothers wear 10,000 years ago or whatever. And you got to buy this and wear it, or you got to have a beard. And I don't know. But one thing is the underlying theme. We know who we are, and we're seeking obedience to our God. That's the underlying theme. And that's churning the curse around. Now, unfortunately, our enemies have bought off a lot of us. How did they do that? They have convinced us that we should be in powerful positions like them. So they have some of us in places like the U.S. Senate, some of us in the Congress, some of us on the Supreme Court. right? And we thinking, oh, we're so proud that some of us are there. That's all good, but you have to understand that whole place is a cesspool. No, listen, the Congress and the Senate and the president's office is a cesspool. What do I mean by that? When you get tossed in the cesspool, you're going to smell like dung. You might go in there smelling sweet, but when you go in there, you come out, you're going to smell like dung. Which means that a person might go there with intentions to do what is righteous. But because it's so corrupt, that corruption ends up rubbing off on the people that go there. And they end up not only becoming corrupt, but becoming champions of corruption. For example, Kamala Harris, a black woman from California. She one of the first black women or second black woman to come into the Senate. But she's corrupt. How did she get her position? She was a cheerleader of the 3 strikes law, putting brothers in jail for life for nonviolent crimes. That's how she made her name. Just like the Caucasian woman from Minnesota, Amy Klobuchar. Well, that's a Caucasian woman. Of course, they're going to do that. But Kamala Harris is a Hebrew. And yet she sold out because she made her name by hurting her own. Oh, she can stand up and make speeches about civil rights. But brothers and sisters, we got to look past that. Now the game is past that. That grandstanding bullcrap, you can't fall for that. We starting and we know who we are. We don't care what they think anymore. We have to look at it for the real. That's another thing the truth does for us. When we follow the truth, you're free from sin and sin's influence. In other words, they can't buy you. Money don't matter. The establishment doesn't matter. And we can look past the BS. But she's an example. I'll give you another example. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez from the Bronx, from Parkchester. She means well. She does. She came up from the Bronx. She ran a street level campaign. She beat an establishment candidate, and she's been kicking butt in the Congress. But even she said it. It's hard. She's corrupt and influence. See, she went from tending a bar for tips in New York. You know how much they make their first year there? 174 G's. Now, that's not $1 million, but look, you go from tips, right, to making $15,000 a month. And now you get used to that. You get used to 15 G's a month and having a staff. And it's hard for you not to play ball. You understand? It's a corruption that's heavy. That's not even talking about, that's the power side. Then there's the entertainment side. You know, your basketball players, your baseball players, your football players, your hockey players, your track athletes that are making millions of dollars these days, entertaining us with what they do athletically, to the point where most of these Caucasian peoples are paying these people all of this money. And they begin to think that their athletic and entertainment abilities make them a god. And then they begin to point to us and they start to try to influence us, who are the masses that have been suffering in the fields. Those are the house niggas. Some of them were field niggas, but they've been put out into the house now. They're living like the master. And they forgot who they are. And it's hard. Why? Because you know what, brothers and sisters? For them to make it, they're going to have to give all that up. That's not easy. I don't want to be in that position. I'd rather just stay where I'm at in terms of economics, right? I don't want to be worth tens of millions of dollars and have to make a decision to give it all up. Messiah said himself, that's a hard thing to do. And they're being set up, our people in those positions. And they make them work so hard. It's like all of us work hard, right? Ain't none of us don't work hard. As Hebrews, we worked here for 250, 350 years for practically nothing or nothing. We know what hard work is. So all of them worked hard, but they've been plucked and chosen, be placed in these positions to influence the rest of us. You can't listen to them. They're speaking from the master's house. We in the field. We need to listen to the master that was in the field with us, Messiah. Not white Jesus. They be going like this and looking up. Don't get me started on that fake God they worship. Ain't nobody looking down from heaven at them except Messiah, and he's not happy. Just like Ai, they sold out. And so we couldn't stand before our enemies. As a matter of fact, that's what Leviticus 26 we know tells us. It's a bearing witness to that fact in our future. Let's see, Leviticus chapter 26. Let's see. Yeah, I'm going to start at verse 33, Leviticus 26. I'm going to go from verse 33. I'm going to read all the way down to 46 because it tells the whole thing from 33 to 46. Notice what it says. And I will scatter you among the heathen. And talking about us. And I will draw out a sword after you, and your land shall be desolate and your cities waste. Let me explain something to you. As long as we, the true Israelites, are not on the land, it's desolate to the Most High. The Edomites are there. They built up cities. But to him, it's desolate because it's only designed for us. We need to understand that. People who are not a people. That's how he describes them. People who are not a people are on the land. Those are the Edomites. And he's going to destroy Isaiah 63, which we haven't gotten to yet. When we get there, you're going to see Messiah say, I'm going to destroy them. I'm going to have their blood all over my garments. That's what he said. That's how he described it. That's violent. He don't got to worry about me. Better worry about him, though. And then shall the land enjoy her Sabbaths as long as it lies desolate, and ye be in your enemy's land. Even then shall the land rest and enjoy her Sabbaths. As long as it lies desolate, it shall rest, because it did not rest in your Sabbaths when you dwelt upon it. And upon them that are left alive of you, I will send a faintness into their hearts in the land of their enemies, and sound of a shaken leaf shall chase them, and they shall flee as fleeing from a sword. And they shall fall when none pursue it. And they shall fall one upon another, as it were before a sword, when none pursue it. And ye shall have no power to stand before your enemies. Does that describe us or doesn't it? And ye shall perish among the heathen, and the land of your enemies shall eat you up. How many people does that actually describe? I mean, groups of people. Only one that I know of. And they that are left of you shall pine away in their iniquities in the enemy's land. Also in the iniquities of their fathers shall they pine away with them, if they shall confess their iniquity and the iniquity of their fathers, with their trespass, which they have trespassed against me, said the Most High. And that also ye have walked contrary unto me, and that I also have walked contrary unto them, and have brought them into the land of their enemies, if then their uncircumcised hearts be humbled, and they then accept of the punishment of their iniquity, then will I remember my covenant with Jacob, and also my covenant with Isaac, and also my covenant with Abraham will I remember, and I will remember the land. And the land also shall be left of them, and shall enjoy her Sabbaths while she lieth desolate without them. And they shall accept of the punishment of their iniquity, because they despise my judgment, and because they're so abhorred my statutes. And yet for all that, when they be in the land of their enemies, I will not cast them away. Neither will I abhor them to destroy them utterly, and to break my covenant with them. For I am Yahweh, their Most High. He's still our God. If we remember our sins and the sins of our fathers, and we turn from our iniquities, he's going to remember the covenant that he made with our fathers, and he's going to turn our captivity. It's got nothing to do with what these Caucasian people think about us or what their plans are. Doesn't matter. This is between us and our God. Us and him. That's the way he's looking at it. But I will, for their sakes, remember the covenant of their ancestors, whom I brought forth out of the land of Egypt in the sight of the heathen, that I might be their most high. I am Yahweh. These are the statutes and judgments and laws which Yahweh made between him and the children of Israel in Mount Sinai by the hand of Moses. See, you're now in a transition period. We're going from not being able to stand before our enemies to dominating our enemies. And in the transition, we're awakening. That's the transition. We're awakening as